all our money's gone.
There were 11 wire transfers in total, 2 on our personal accounts, 9 on our business accounts. We lost close to $140,000.
If you have a debit card, a bank account, or access to online banking, you need to hear this right now, because what you're about to hear can happen to anyone.
Scott and Kate Zoll want you to know what happened to them so that it doesn't happen to you.
One morning, Scott and Kate Zoe woke up to something that felt unreal. In just a few hours, nearly everything they had worked for was gone. 11 wire transfers had been made, 2 from their personal accounts, 9 from their business accounts. By the time they understood what was happening, close to $140,000 had disappeared. And the most terrifying part of this story is that they didn't ignore warnings. They didn't fall for something obvious. They actually thought they were doing the responsible thing. It all started with a text message on Scott's phone. The message looked like it came from Chase Alerts. It asked a simple question. Did you attempt to send a wire transfer in the amount of $4,500?
What happened to Scott and Kate Zoll began with a text to Scott's phone, supposedly from Chase Alerts, asking, did you attempt to send a wire transfer for the amount of $4,500?
At that point, before I did anything else, I reached out to my business partners and asked if they had initiated a wire. They had not, so I then called the bank branch to see if they could see any activity on my account.
That was smart. Chase Bank immediately gave him the number to its fraud department. What would happen next was his big mistake.
Scott didn't panic. He didn't click any links. Before doing anything else, he contacted his business partners to check if anyone had initiated a wire transfer. So he did what most people would do. He called his bank branch directly to see if there was any unusual activity on the account. The branch told him they didn't see anything definitive, but to be safe, they gave him the phone number for Chase's fraud department. At that moment, everything still felt legitimate. Scott then replied to the original text message and selected no, confirming that he did not initiate the wire transfer. Almost immediately, he received another message saying that someone from the Chase fraud team would be contacting him shortly. Within less than a minute, his phone rang. The number calling him was the exact same number the bank branch had just given him. Same number, same formatting, same trust. Scott answered the call, believing he was now speaking directly with Chase Bank. What he didn't know was that the call was not coming from Chase at all. Criminals had spoofed the bank's real fraud department number, making it appear identical to the official one.
And at one point, I even called the Chase line because the phone number dropped, and I called the Chase fraud line. And I was frustrated with actual Chase because they couldn't see the conversations that were happening. And within a minute, the people that were scamming us actually called back, and I'm like, great, these people know what they're talking about. I'm going to go back to this call.
Scott isn't sure how, but says the scammers already had his bank account number and knew how much money he had. All they needed from Scott was a one-time passcode that he did in fact receive via text from real Chase, only to then unwittingly share it with the scammer who was pretending to be Chase Bank. That phone call would cost him $137,130.
Just wake up and start all over again to try to accept that all our money's gone. And I'm not hopeful at this point in the journey that we're going to see any of it again.
With today's technology, scammers can make calls and send texts that look like they're coming from your bank's real phone number. Checking the number is no longer enough. The person on the phone sounded professional, calm, and confident. They used banking language. They referenced account activity. They knew exactly how wire transfers work. Everything about the conversation felt real. At one point, the call dropped. Frustrated, Scott tried calling Chase himself using the fraud number, but the actual Chase representatives couldn't see any of the activity he was being told about. They didn't know what he was referring to. Less than a minute later, Scott's phone rang again. The scammers called him back. To Scott, it felt like confirmation. These people seemed informed. They seemed responsive. They seemed legitimate. What he didn't realize was that the scammers already had his bank account number and knew exactly how much money was in the account. They didn't need passwords. They didn't need his login. They needed one thing: a one-time passcode. Scott received a verification code by text message. The text came from the real Chase system. The person on the phone told him the code was needed to stop the fraudulent wire transfer. Trusting the process, Scott read the code out loud. That single moment cost him $137,000. With that code, the scammers gained access. Wire transfers were initiated rapidly. Funds were moved out before any real fraud protection could stop it. By the time Scott and Kate fully understood what had happened, the money was gone. In the days that followed, everything felt unreal. They described waking up every morning feeling like they were still stuck in a nightmare, trying to accept that all of their money had vanished in a matter of hours.
Most recent FBI stats show in 2022, 405 Colorado phishing victims lost nearly $500,000, and 467 spoofing victims lost $2 million.
The technology does exist that they can spoof phone numbers from anywhere in the world and make it look like it's a Chase fraud department.
Brian Blosser is a special agent with the FBI who says phishing and spoofing scams are getting more sophisticated by the day.
There is a special place in hell for the people that can do this to someone.
They weren't careless. They weren't irresponsible. They were targeted. And this is not a rare case. According to FBI data, phishing and spoofing scams are growing at an alarming rate. In just 1 year, hundreds of victims lost millions of dollars through these exact tactics. And investigators say the numbers are likely much higher because many cases are never reported. An FBI special agent explained that the technology behind these scams allows criminals to impersonate trusted institutions with frightening accuracy. Phone numbers can be spoofed from anywhere in the world. Text messages can look official. Calls can sound exactly like your bank. These scams are becoming more sophisticated every single day. This was not about Chase Bank making a mistake. This was about criminals exploiting how banks communicate with customers. Every major bank uses the same tools: fraud alerts by text, verification codes, urgent language, calls from fraud departments. Scammers understand this system perfectly. They design their operations to mirror real bank behavior. That's why this can happen at any bank: Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Navy Federal, any credit union, anywhere in the world. If you use a bank, you are a potential target. So here is what actually matters. There are rules that will protect you, and they are non-negotiable. Never continue a conversation you didn't start. If a text message or phone call claims to be from your bank, end it immediately. Do not reply. Do not press buttons. Do not explain anything. Start a brand new call using the phone number on the back of your card or an official statement. Second, never share one-time passcodes, ever. It does not matter how official it sounds or how urgent the situation feels. Banks send those codes for you, not from you. Anyone asking for a verification code is not your bank. Third, urgency is the scam. Scammers rush you because speed shuts down logic. Real banks slow things down. They freeze accounts. They investigate. The moment you feel pressured to act immediately, stop and slow everything down. Fourth, any instruction to move money is a red flag. If someone tells you to wire funds, transfer money to secure accounts, or relocate funds to protect them, that is not fraud prevention. That is the fraud. If you think you made a mistake, act immediately. Call your bank using a trusted number from the back of your card. Tell them you may be a victim of a scam. Lock everything down. Change your login details. Disable wire transfers. Add extra verification. Freeze accounts if necessary. Then file a report with the FBI at ic3.gov. This creates an official record and sometimes helps identify patterns or recover funds. And finally, understand this: FDIC insurance does not cover scams. It only covers bank failure. Wire transfers are often final. Recovery is sometimes possible, but it is never guaranteed. Scott and Kate were not careless. They were targeted with a system designed to feel familiar, professional, and urgent. That is why these scams work. Your real protection is not better apps or smarter technology. It is discipline. Slow down. Verify independently. Never share codes. Never trust urgency. Because any bank name can be used. Any phone number can be spoofed. And anyone can be fooled, unless they know exactly how this works.